So this is the 2024 Vault Halloween Collection with Sizzix. 5 SKUs. Again, the Vault Collection retails for $20.99 in the US. It is available worldwide. It was released on Monday of this week, so it's available everywhere. The cool thing about this, like I said, is because it's reimagined, it really allowed us to do some fun things with it. And again, I want to say a shout out to Jen Long at Sizzix, because we work tirelessly to try to fit as much as we can on the template that we are allowed to use for this particular series. And so we really try to pack in a lot of stuff to bring a great value. So I'm going to go through the dies. I'm going to talk about what's in each set, what the original sets were inspired by, and then we will get into the creative makes. All right, so there's a lot to cover. Okay, I'm going to take this first one because honestly, this was the first one. I'm not going in any particular order other than, you know, what I feel. But this particular one, this was the first one that we needed to work on for Vault, because these were some favorites that we did years and years ago that I did with EL, who worked at Sizzix. She was the one that originally designed these with her. And I loved these dies. And these were ones that, oh my gosh, so many years people would say, oh, I wish you'd bring these back. I wish you'd bring these back. I wish you'd bring these back. And well, they're back. And they're back and they're resized. So this was the original die that inspired these great words. I love just that scripty font. I also love that these are connected words. So as far as the scale goes for these particular words, you can see the Vault ones are smaller. And that was one thing that, again, a shout out to Jen for doing, because when we initially did these, we got these die lines as thin as possible. And I'm like, are we still able to reduce it but still get, she goes, hey, things have changed since you initially did that. So the specs have kind of tightened up a little bit, and it allows us to get a little bit more detail in there. So I love the fact that these are slightly smaller. So again, if you have the original ones, you can pair these, especially if you're doing some collage, and you'll see some cool things of what you can do for the particular style of this font. So that was kind of the catalyst of all this. And then it was like, all right, well, what else do we put with it, right? We got the words. That was the important thing. What other elements can we put in with this? Well, one, of course, is a raven. And it's a raven that we've wanted so much that it was inspired by an original die set where the big raven came from. Then, if you recall, I actually did a Vault series in 2021. We only did one Halloween and one Christmas, and we called it a Vault series because it was the first time I pitched that idea to Sizzix. I'm like, I wonder if, you know, we could take some of these designs that people ask for and bring it back. And they're like, I don't know if anyone's going to want something that has already been released before. And I go, well, let's resize it. So we tried it. It was very successful, but of course it took a few years to kind of get this whole plan put together. And now here we are in 2024 with a whole year of Vault. But you can still see that even if you have the original, this one, or if you purchased the Vault series that had one of these, even the new one is a different size. So it's like this one was facing this way, these two face the other way, and of course the one on this year's Vault is even smaller, which is great because you can put it in a lot of different elements, which you will see in the makes. Creative options are key. It's just key. I love it. And people that love this, it's going to be great because, of course, you can use these many different ways collectively, if you like the birds. When it comes to the bats here, well, the bats, because this set had so many different size bats, we just kind of went with it. So it doesn't have any different size bats. Just be aware of, you're like, oh, I wonder if it's any different size. We took out 2 of the bats from this set that I felt were really great size. So they are the same size as this, but so for that one, consider it a multiple. But then we have these. Now, if you've been with the whole Tim Holtz Sizzix collection for years, you might remember these. These were mover and shapers. These are little steel rule dies with magnets on the back that would work with other base dies. And these are great because these are these paper cut silhouettes. These are actually vintage silhouettes that I purchased and then we scanned in to create these. And I love that. It definitely reminds me of the portraits on Main Street at Disneyland. But these were steel rule dies. So having these now as thinlets are really cool. This was the original size of those mover and shapers, and these are the 2 in the Vault. So these not only work together, but you'll see how they were sized to fit not only things for this release, but things that have been in Vault release this year as well. So you'll see that in the makes when we talk about what these are designed. Everything is really designed to kind of work together. So as you can see, a lot of stuff. But then we have this. Why? Well, because I am me, and I always say, you do you. So I said to Jen, I've always wanted a really creepy spider. I wish I would have done a creepy spider in my years with Sizzix. All of the dies, like, they're all cute. She goes, so just do a creepy spider. I go, but it doesn't exist anywhere. She goes, well, it's going to exist here. And you were right. So this spider has never existed anywhere. It was just something that I wanted, this really crazy, long-legged spider, and we introduced it into this vault set. So if you're looking for, like, oh, I want to find the original, there's the original right there in Vault Halloween. All right. I do love this set. It's cool. It's fun to go through, honestly, and it does make me shudder too, Zoe. It's just fun to go through and kind of see everything and just be like, wow, I remember doing that art, and kind of bringing it back. I do love that. Okay, let's go into, I don't even know what I want to do next. I'm going to do this one next, just because. We're going to talk about the Wreath. I love this whole line. This is inspired by the Funky collection, I call it, because the SKUs were Funky Wreath, Funky Floral, Funky Foliage. There was a lot of funk. I did a lot of funk, so much that I actually have like a book of funk. So I've got like all of my funky dies in one binder. I love, and the reason I called it funky is really just because the art is funky. That's really why I called it that. The art has, like, it's definitely an illustrative style. It's not cutesy, but it's also not grungy. It's just funky. And so, as you can see through the years, we've done a lot of funk. So Funky Floral 1, 2, 3. We did Funky Foliage, which had like toadstools, acorns, a lot of cool stuff. Funky Festive, a lot of festive elements. We did Large Funky. So we took some of the funky shapes and made them larger. We did Large Funky Festive, took some of the Funky Festive and made those larger. We've done Funky Nature with feathers and birds. And again, it just has a funky style. Even Funky Cactus, my favorite, the Funky Cactus. We've done Funky Toadstools, even funky trees that go great with colorize. So there was just a lot of funk to choose from. And so I did funky throughout this whole Vault series. So let me just talk about this particular one. This is the one for the Vault Halloween. And this is a Funky Fall Wreath, and I love the elements that are used on this. There's so many cool features in here, so I'm just going to bring in this one. We'll bring in these pieces, and we'll bring in kind of that base die, which kind of started it all for the whole series, really. But I do love that it's kind of a twiggy wreath. It has a variety of different leaves. There's an acorn, there's some different flowers in there, there's a bow. So there are pieces that we took from different collections. So the Funky Festive, we took the bow, but we decided to make it much bigger for the vault. So it doesn't always go small. Sometimes it goes big. It just really depends on the scale and how things work. When it comes to the elements, we definitely went smaller. So this is the original Funky Foliage, and this is the Vault Funky Foliage. So you can see, I mean, it's quite a scale difference when it comes to these elements that we put in. So what's great is, of course, if you were doing cards or any other projects, you can utilize both of these, even the same design, because now you're going to have different sizes to work in your make. There are a couple of pieces like these two florals that in the original Funky had stems, but in this particular one, because it was designed for a wreath, I just used the flower top. So these don't actually have stems. But if you wanted stems for these, you would just use, let me just kind of hold the lighting. This particular die, this leaf, has this stick. There you go. It's like a stick piece that you would use as kind of the vein for the leaf, but you can use that stick piece for the stem of both of those flowers if you wanted to recreate that. So just be aware. If you're looking, you're like, hey, that doesn't look like that. Ish. We designed to the nearest ish. Then we'll talk about the Vault Wreath, the wreaths themselves. For Vault, I just wanted some bigger elements. I loved that we did both of these wreaths initially, but when we did the Funky Wreaths, we wanted to really make a statement piece with the finished look, because it doesn't just have to be a card. It could be a card, it could be a journal cover, it could be in a frame, it could be used for home decor. So that's why the Vault Wreath is much bigger. But now I'm going to take you on a little adventure. All right, a little creative adventure. So let's rewind first to the first part of this year when we did this first wreath. This was the first Vault Wreath that we did for spring. And I love this wreath because it has that leafy style, these little wispy leaves that came around. Totally different than this wreath that has the twigs, right? And it was important that we had something different because I'm actually doing 3 wreaths. And I don't normally do this. In fact, I don't think I've ever done it, but I'm actually going to show you a die that is coming out next month in Christmas. Sizzix doesn't know this, but they're about to find out right now. There we go. So this die, this is part of the Christmas Vault. Now, don't be confused. This is not released until September. It's not going to be anywhere. It won't even be like for pre-order because retailers should not be sharing this art. But I'm sharing it in live because I want you to see that all along when I did this vault collection, I wanted 3 wreaths to have different components that you as a maker could work together throughout the entire year. Okay, and we wanted to build these elements throughout. And the reason I'm telling you this is because this one is already out, this one came out in fall, and there is no guaranteed life cycle to these. Chances are they will be retired by the end of the year or when they sell out. I'm not guaranteeing that, I'm just saying that's pretty much how Sizzix works. So I wanted to say that because by the time Christmas comes around, if you're like, oh, now I get it, and you try to go back and get these and they're gone, I don't want you to feel like, well, I wish you would have said something. So that's really why I'm saying something now, because these components, they all have different wreath base, they have different bows, and they have different elements like the candles, which you'll even see in a make today, because one of the makers said, could I use the ones? Because they got both Halloween and Christmas dies. I'm like, absolutely. The drippy candles are great for Halloween, and this comes out next month, so still plenty of time to incorporate in Halloween makes. Fruit slices are great in fall, as are the pine cones. I mean, so there's a lot of cool elements when it came. Zoe said we have seasonal confusion. You're right, but and that's all right. But here's the cool thing about these wreaths, just so I can show you from the base aspect, okay? Right now I'm sure, what is he doing? Okay, so let's just say you purchased all 3 of these, okay? We're talking the spring, which is going to be leafy, the fall, which is going to be twiggy, and Christmas, which is going to be swirly. Those are not official names, it's just what I call them. Leafy, twiggy, and swirly. Now you can see already that although they are somewhat the same, they actually have a different scale because I wanted you to be able to layer these. Here's what I mean, okay? I'm just bring in a piece of cardstock just to kind of show you. All right, so let's say you were building, I don't know, for Halloween. That means I can cut something out of orange. That would be leafy. Maybe I want to do twiggy out of black. And then maybe I want to do the swirly one, maybe out of purple. The cool thing is that you can take these pieces and you can actually layer them together. You can offset that. You can kind of weave this in between the twigs. You can offset this. You can put these layers any which way you want. So whatever colors you want to show, they are designed to layer any which way. There's not like which one goes in the middle, which one's on the top, the bottom. It's really up to you as a maker as to which elements that you want. And you don't have to use all 3 together, but they were designed to be used together. That's why their swirls are even different, which make them really cool. Even if you had things like sparkly paper, so maybe you had like some glitter. Again, we're kind of going Halloween. I'll even do some Christmas. That we can take just like sparkly. How great is that? And just do that orange one. So when you saw the spring wreath, you might have been like, not really into flowers. Yeah, I hear you, but these are very cool elements, and you'll see even on some of the makes that when you cut these things out of the color for the season, they can, like this could instantly become a very funky, very vibrant poinsettia. I understand it's not botanically correct, but it doesn't matter. You can still utilize these florals at any time, just depends on how you cut them out. So even for Halloween, it's really fun. For Christmas, oh my gosh, so many creative options. You can take the spring one and then you can do your dark green. Then for the current fall, we can do it in brown. So now we can create kind of something with a little bit of a woodland vibe right there. Cool. Maybe we want to add something, maybe a little traditional, right? Maybe we want to add just a splash of red. So see, putting that in the back, you're just going to get little peaks of that, or maybe we want to put it in between. All right, that's fun too, a little offset. Or maybe you want to go fully winter. So you can take the white branch and do it out of white glittery paper. Maybe we'll do this one, I don't know, maybe we'll just do some added white. So it's almost like birch, I guess. And even do like, look at that, a little sage. See, so that could be a winter wreath. And so you wouldn't think as we're going through that all of those wreaths could be used for Halloween or for Christmas. They can be, but it was really hard to kind of explain it all until the end of the year. And then really I started getting nervous after this one because I love this wreath. And I thought, oh my gosh, by the time Christmas rolls around, what if either one of those wreaths are already sold out and gone? Then there goes the whole story. So now at least I was able to get my story out. So here, again, just a little metallic cardstock, a little bit of little sparkly paper on that spring wreath. So see, you don't have to use all three, but you can. And you could even use the same pieces together. So if you wanted to, again, let's say you wanted to do something a little wintry, you can still take two of those twiggy ones and just offset it and put a shadow color underneath. In fact, that's really how I did that for the packaging. So the packaging is really two wreaths. I just did one in a dark brown, one in a light brown, and you just offset it. And it just makes the wreath bulkier. So that's what I wanted to share, because sometimes, again, you know, it's very hard to express what is in this popcorn brain of mine when I'm designing things, where it's like, oh, but it could be this, and it could be this, and it could be this. So this has a lot of potential. And then don't even get me started using the shaping kit and make these flowers dimensional. It's crazy. All right. So that is the wreath. All that just to talk about the wreath, but I wanted to share because, well, you wouldn't know if you didn't see, right? Right.
People are super excited that you shared that.
Oh, good. Well, thanks. I hope Sizzix is equally excited, because they're probably like, why did you do that to us? Because really, that is a no-no to share ahead of time. But I needed to say it. Okay. Next up, let's do her. She's a phone.
About what cardstock you used on your...
Sure, the cardstock I use a textured cardstock. I use a textured cardstock from Sizzix. They have a great linen cardstock, but I've also used the original Ideology craft stock. It doesn't come textured anymore. That's just what I use. So just because I like that texture on there. And if you're old school, you kind of maybe remember Basil cardstock, just like that. Okay, so you're welcome. So on this next one, we loved the Witch. I think when the Witch came out, it was just so much fun just to have some fun dies with this original set. And the beauty of this is that we have these witches. One was standing, one was flying. We had a couple of cats and a cauldron, and this was a great set. But we wanted to kind of reimagine it, because when I saw makers use this, I saw them putting it in things where I envisioned if she was only a bit bigger, she would be like the star instead of the supporting role. And that's really what we did when we designed this particular set. And you can see we packed a ton of stuff in this one. Oh my gosh. So let's first start with the Witch. So what we did is we took the original one, increased the size, and flipped her. So now she's just going the other direction, but obviously significantly bigger. So now she could really stand alone on a slimline card or a scrapbook page or a vignette or anything like that. So the scale was really important. The broom we kept the same, right? So again, we don't like follow a thing. We do what we want to do. Just because I like the way the broom was designed, it's still like if it goes through her hands, it just had a better swoop to it. So this is the vault. You can see bigger scale than the original on the Witch and the broom. Then there's a lot of just things. So the cat that was in here, we wanted to make the cat bigger. We wanted to make the little mouse bigger. So those are the same, just made it a little bit larger. Same thing on the bats. The bats we wanted to go a little bit smaller, and then we'll talk about this little raven. Let's see, where did that one come from? There we go. That's this one. This was called Regions Beyond. It was this little tiny raven that was on top of this crystal ball. So on this one, we actually made it a little bit smaller. So we did the raven smaller so it would sit perched on her hand or on her hat or maybe on the moon. So there again, all different things. But then there were these potion bottles, which I loved. And the potion bottles in this set, well, they were huge, and they were designed to be, because it was all about, kind of creating this little parlor with a crystal ball and potions and all that. But for the vault, we wanted to make them much smaller so they could be an accessory, a little accent, and you'll see how great the accent and accessories could be. We also went a little old school and went into this set and wanted to do the hat. So same thing, we just made the hat a little bit smaller. Just kind of fun just to, again, pull elements out. You never know where we're going to go. We went back into, again, another mover and shaper. I love the moon. That's the little moon with the face. We put a thinlet of this guy in there. Love that for the vault. And then for this pumpkin, because we just wanted, I don't know, a little bibbity-bobbity pumpkin. Just fun, and I love the shape and design. So we went to this color eyes, which the color eyes is pretty big, shrunk it down significantly, got rid of all the colorized layers because we really just wanted a pumpkin. So we just took that shape, and that's what we did for Vault. So you could see a lot of little elements. The stars are just, again, one of those where I'm like, we need to add some stars. So we went back and just took some stars and made a die. But cool, right? Very, very fun. A lot of good fun. All right, I'm just gonna set these off to the side. I need to take this. Oh, I gotta stay organized around here. That's good. All right, put these over here. All right, let's do this. Okay, so next up, it's the year of the ghosties. I love a good ghostie. Ask Mario, I'm shopping for ghosties all the time.
Every day.
And when I started cutting this out, I'm like, my gosh, have I used that art a lot. But you know what? I think for makers, you guys can never get enough of the ghosties either. I love this set because there again, we packed a lot of stuff in here for, I mean, really, $20.99 for all of these dies. When you look at them separately, like the value is crazy. Okay, so this has a lot of stuff going on because, well, these were never designed where you make one scene. Could you? Yes. But it was really just about whatever elements that you could use in a scene at some point, okay? So we'll first talk about the ghosties, just because to me they're the star of the show, and I have used them a lot. So this was what I was talking about, that Vault 2021. So you'll see on the ghosts for this one, let me find the size comparison. There we go. Here they are. So when they initially came out in this set, they were quite big size. Great, I love them. I love that they're big for bigger projects. Then when we did them in the Vault 2021 series, we shrunk them down a little bit and then we flipped them. So you can see like he's going the opposite direction of this one, same with this one. Then when we did this year's Vault, decided, you know what, I like the original orientation of that. And can we go even smaller now? Keep in mind, you may not really care about this, but all these little thin lines and these little bends, that's what creates the challenge when it comes to designing, because there are specs as far as how thin a die can be next to each other so the paper still comes out and it cuts. And again, Jen did great. She's like, we have to make the eyes a little bit bigger for spec. I'm like, great, bigger eyes, even better. So I love that we really work well together to kind of create the best of the best for this. So yes, now if you have all of these, now you have 3 sizes of ghosties. So just imagine them flying out of a haunted house or a wreath or just something cool for Halloween. Absolutely love it. Yeah, Jen always says that. I just saw her comment. She's like, challenge accepted, because I go, Jen, wouldn't it be cool if we can do this? But I'm sure you can't. And she's like, challenge accepted. Don't worry about it. And she does it. I love it. Okay. Another cool element was, this was another one, speaking of challenge, was the spider web. This was its own thinlet. Why? Because that is as thin as we could go. So we had to make it that big enough for its own die, because we couldn't go any thinner than what this was. That was then, this is now. So this was the original size. This is the new size in the Vault. So we were able to go smaller. She was able to kind of we went a little bit thinner, but not so much that we compromised the integrity of the design, and even went smaller with the spider. So I love that. Again, this is a favorite. The reason I love this design so much, I mean, it's a great spider web, but if you look at the way it's designed, it's really designed, just kind of look at that plus sign. Just focus your eye on that plus sign for a second, because you can take this and if you cut it, you actually get 4 corners to put in the card. So if you just cut it here and cut it here, you have 4 little corners of spider web. If you cut it across, either horizontal or vertical, you can just have spider web coming down from the top of your card or coming up from the bottom, or there again, up from the bottom, down from the top. So it's a very functional design, not only just to use as is, but also it's very easy to be like, okay, I want to cut this into pieces and I want it to look really, really even on my card. Well, you just followed that center line. And then of course this little spider in the web, it's a separate die. It is connected to the spider, but it's not connected to the web. So you don't have to have the spider if you don't want to. So I love that we included that one as well. Then we went in, let's just do this one's easy. I love the clouds and the moons. This one came from a thinlet that has long retired as well. This is Ghost Town. I'm not sure if this is 1 or 2. This might be Ghost Town 2. But this was kind of that scene, that very eerie scene. Reminds me of Pirates of the Caribbean, just that like kind of smoky cloud and little moon. Vault, we're able to do that smaller. So it just provides a great scene for the background because, again, forced perspective, if things are smaller in the background, it just creates a great element to use for your frightful makes, or really anytime. It could be for fall. Another piece, which was really interesting, when we were doing this, I think Jen and I initially went off of this because we were doing the clouds. I'm like, oh, I like this little grave scene. Let's do a graveyard, but can we add some more pieces? And she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. But as I was going through, I'm like, this looks awfully familiar. I don't know why until I saw this. This is way old school. This is a graveyard steel rule die that I did so long ago, but I really feel that a lot of these elements, especially when you start looking, doesn't have everything, but you can kind of really identify the shape of these as like it kind of started from there and then morphed into it when I did Ghost Town. But then for Vault, you can see we increased the size and then we added some other headstones kind of to look more like the original. Isn't that crazy? That was like full circle when I was prepping. I'm like, we simplified it and then we tried to add stuff, but then really we kind of got it more back to the original. I love that. It's fun. And maybe Jen seeing that for the first time like I was like, who knew? Okay. Speaking of Bigs, we've got this. Now, in its day, I'm telling you, when we did this with Bigs, it was like groundbreaking that we took a steel rule die and we had so many bends and turns and little skinny. I remember doing this like it was yesterday, although it wasn't. It was many, many years ago. But when EL and I first did this steel rule die, she's like, I don't think we can get blades, steel rule blades, to be parallel and make so many little turns in box. And I'm like, let's just do it. And we did it. So this was the original. This was just called branches because that's what it was. And I love this because it makes perfect branches. It also makes great trees. So you could use it a lot of different ways. This is the return of it for Vault. So it's really, really good. I just saw Diana's like, I'm still looking for that die. I know it is a tough one to find. It was a cool die just to think about the technology and like obviously where the industry has evolved to as far as thinlits. So yeah, that's the Vault. So much smaller, but great if you're making trees or doing wreaths or anything like that. A lot of stuff in that one. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I used to have some laughs when you would push and push and push.
Oh, but
she had so much fun.
But see, I think that's where like her and Jen are very similar in that, where it's like, oh, challenge, let's go.
We can do that.
Yeah, let's try. We've never done it, and I think that is what kind of keeps us all moving forward all the time. Is just that we're just not afraid to try. It still may not work out, but trying it I think is really good. All right. Then we're going to talk about the last one. Then we're going to get into the makes. This one is unbelievable value. Coffin Box and Alphabet. So yes, this makes a coffin box. So it's a dimensional coffin with a removable lid. It is a little box. It's a great die. A lot of people, because sometimes you look at the packaging and you just see it as a flat piece, but it really is. It's two dies that easily make this little coffin box. I'll demo this at the end just to kind of show you how that works. It also has some great little elements. So we'll talk about the inspiration for that and a very cool font. Very cool indeed. So first we'll talk about the coffin box. So I want to say a shout out to Julie because Julie, who lives in Florida, and this was only 2 days ago, I was prepping for the live, and it's a bit sad, but I'll be all right. This die, this is the original coffin box. It was a Bigs L, is the only die in my career that I don't have. And I don't know how or why or where. I mean, I obviously had it at one time, but it is, so we message her. I'm like, Julie, because she loves Halloween. I'm like, do you have the original coffin? She's like, I do. I'm like, can you please cut a few? We'll overnight it because I need to make the visual sample for live. And she's like, sure. So this was the original size of the coffin box. Again, it was a steel rule die. It was a Bigs L. So maybe I'll find it. I looked online, but it was like $250. I'm like, no way.
$250?
No,
That's
thanks.
ridiculous.
But this is the new size. And the new size is really, it's just charming. It's small, it's cute, it's just great. But it was definitely inspired by that original steel rule size. Then we have some other elements. I'm just going to kind of bring those in. I'll just take the font away first. There we go. Let's talk about these little pieces. Again, more movers and shapers, these little magnetic pieces. These were the inspiration for the cross and the bat. It's actually the same size as these movers and shapers. These are tiny, and I thought the size was really perfect. So we just turned that original art into thinlits. But then we have this one. This one that's super cool. And so a shout out to my friend Zoe Hillman, because she did this in a make last Halloween. And I love the idea. I'm like, Zoe, can I please use your idea but actually turn it into a product? She's like, yeah, go ahead. This way I don't have to. So it was really about her idea of using this hat, which is a die, but I loved how she paired it with this little skeleton. So let's go through. This was last year's the colorized graveyard. That was the skull face. And I'm like, where did you get the hat? I don't even understand. She's like, oh, from the Festive Gent. So the Festive Gent, this was a steel wool die, but it was also a thinlit. But there's his little hat right there. I mean, on this, really, who would have thought just to go into this Christmas die for a hat? Well, that would be Zoe. Zoe loves hats. So, and I'm like, I just want to make that hat a die. We'll put a little band, because this didn't have a band, but it needed a little hat band. And we did that. So I really love that we've got our little skull. We took the bones from, well, that previous die that had the ghosties on it. We took those bones, same size, but I love that. Great little set, right? So we have the coffin. We've got these little elements to decorate. And then we have this alphabet. This alphabet, it was a decorative strip way long ago, but it was a different style. This is originally inspired by this Biggs XL called Gothic. A steel rule die. So yes, we used to do steel rule dies of full alphabets. And it was, I mean, really one of the most requested fonts for people that love this style for a lot of different things, not just Halloween, but also, you know, very old world kind of vintage makes. This was the size of that Biggs XL size of this font, and this is the vault. So now we kind of got a size a little bit bigger, much cleaner than the original decorative strip was. So that is that classic font in vault. I mean, again, great value. So you get the full alphabet, the coffin box, and those elements. Super good, right?
So the die is up to 260.
Oh man, yeah, that's sad.
You could keep it.
Yeah, someday maybe I'll find it. But yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like, how is that I own every die that I've ever designed but that one?
I can't believe it.
Especially for Halloween.
Yesterday.
Well, you know, they're like, oh, he's getting ready. All right. So that would be all of the size comparisons for the dies. A lot of fun, a lot of cool things. So many great ideas, right? Love that. Okay. Just going to kind of clear this up real quick. Hand these off tomorrow. We've got really buckets of stuff that I'll hand out. There we go. All right. So while we're doing that, I'm just going to flip this just to tell you something. Because now that I didn't want to start with this because then I think just the hype brain would kick in because, well, I'm one of you. But here we go. We're going to get into the makes, but I wanted to do a very special shout out that would actually be on the live, because as you know, the intro gets edited out. I'll keep this short and sweet. Throughout the holiday lives, that would be Halloween and Christmas, our friends at Simon Says Stamp are going to do giveaways, which I think is really great. I mean, I think it's important to support your local retailers. And Simon Says Stamp has been such a great supporter of the brand, as so many retailers, but she shows up for the lives and is very supportive of the lives. And she said, you know what, we want to do some giveaways. So every live that we do for the season for both Halloween and Christmas, we will be giving away $100 gift cards to simonsaysstamp.com during live. So that would be while you're commenting during live, winners will be selected. And at the end of live, we will post the winners. So you will see how to contact, how to claim, all of that. So it's going to be really important that you watch the lives for the seasons and have a chance to win.
Heidi. It's
so going to be fun.
It's
so
really awesome.
Yeah, thanks Heidi and Simon Says. All right, back to the show. Here we go. All right, so we will get into the makes, and we'll start, of course, with, well, I was kind of teasing you about this right from the beginning, which I think is really, really good. This make is from Zoe Hillman. She created this, and there's a lot of elements in here, and this is the importance of collecting, right? That's what I said. You have to collect the dies, because if you collect the dies, like Zoe said, you kind of have all the stuff, right? So when it comes to working with dies and embossing folders, this is an etc. tag that Zoe started with. But this is Fireside. So this is a Christmas colorize that we did. Let's take a look at that. really amazing. And I love how Zoe created this fireplace that she added these little elements to. There's so many different nuances from the embossing folder that's back here. She did that little brick back there. She's got all of the little stones. There's some wood grain in here, and created the scene. And that is going to be the important thing about working with your dies. Taking your dies and see them for what they could be, not for what maybe when you essentially bought it, okay, what it could be. So here she used wicked. So I love the idea of just incorporating that word. There's that little spider drop, and that would be from the witch. There are all the little bottles. So remember when I talked about all the little potion bottles? I mean, look at that work of taking those little bottles, die cutting that, and having all of these little potion bottles from this set, just to kind of go across. She did ask if she could use the drippy candle. So this is where you can see having those dies. If you didn't have the original Region Beyond and you have these little candles, using that Christmas die for this. Then we've got those new Gothic portraits. And then if you recall, in the last Vault collection in Boutique, we had these little frames. And yes, when we were designing these portraits, we wanted to make sure these portraits fit the frames from Vault 2 Boutique. So if you bought the one with the frame and the rose and the butterfly, these frames, of course, fit the portraits. And then you can see the spider web in the back. So this is really where you cut out all of your things and you just enjoy the idea of it. And of course, the background is using an embossing folder, right? The tapestry. I think this one's tapestry. But yeah, you can use your embossing folder to make your background. This to me is like really the ultimate Sizzix imagination at play. That's what I absolutely love. It's really, really fun to create elements using so many different dies and components. Okay? So next up, Tifa created this, and I love when Natifa shows cards, envelopes, all of the fun things combined, because I think that that's also really important, just to show how many things go together. I'm just going to bring all these pieces in. I'm going to actually just moving the dies a little closer to me in case I need them. But here she took those wonderful words and look at how she just covered it onto an envelope. Just cut it and repeat and create a background. Absolutely love that. So cool just to have that going across. Little black texture paste just to create that little splattery design. There you can see our wreath, very kind of Halloween vibe, cut in black. And I love where she used the gel pen just to accent those elements. And then she used the portrait and then Vanishing Visitors, Fright. So a great way to incorporate these pieces into a Halloween card, right? Cool, I think. Good fun. I love seeing all of those components together. Keisha created this. So again, it's all about using the dies with how you want. And of course, following alcohol ink, when we did the alcohol ink demo, I love how she did alcohol ink as a background. This was sent in way before that demo. So I love the colors of that. And then just cut your elements out of black cardstock. So using Wicked back there, you can see the bats flying up. So that was from that bat crazy that I showed you before. There's our new spider. See how we just can kind of walk across the words, and then she has something dreadfully wicked. So a panel, this could be hung, this could go in a frame, this could sit on the mantle, this could go stuck in the center of a wreath. I just love that. So if you work with alcohol ink since last week, you're like, I don't know what to do with it. Well, there you go. Get some of your die cuts, just cut it out of black cardstock and off you go. Now, this smooth black cardstock that kind of looks like velvety suede, this is Distress Black Heavy Stock. It is one of my favorites for a great black cardstock that provides that smooth matte finish. And these are a couple layers. She did cut a couple layers and stack them, but yeah, very, very cool. I love the effect. This next card, Joy created. I always love a good interactive card. So here you can see there's Boo. Hey Boo, I love that. I love the offset. So this has just been die cut 3 times in black, cream, and orange, and then just stacked and offset a little bit. There you can see the spider web, and there's our creepy spider, and then she just did, there's our little ghost that just flies up, and there's our spider just creepy going up and down the card. Isn't that fun? Interactive cards for the win. I always love that. She's like, why do that? Because it's magical. It's fun, and I love how she just used that ghosty as a pull, just so he's just flying off. Yeah? You can see in the back, see that little purple? There's our good Distress Spritz. If you haven't been working with it since you got it, this is its purpose, really. Distress Spritz is just designed to spritz, where you don't have to do a full background with it. It is like creative sprinkles. Think of that. I could have called it sprinkles, but it really isn't. But it's where you just spritz it on, and like whatever you get, you get. This way, when you look at it and the light hits it, you just have those little colorful sprinkles on there. Great card, fun, cute, and just a great thing about the word. And that's what I wanted to focus on first. The makes you're going to see use a whole variety of all of the different dyes and all of the things that we have in this collection. But specifically, if something kind of resonates with me, I'll pull it into what I'm talking about. So Kubert created this one. Beautiful card. I love the background. I love the little bit of texture in there. Here you can see she used the word wicked and then again offset that. So if you haven't tried that, it's just cutting it two different colors of paper, and then when you glue it, you can either shift it down, to the right, up. It really doesn't matter. And then there's that little spider web, the bats, and I do love that stencil. One of my favorite stencils that I did was Stampers Anonymous, and you can see just a little bit and a beautiful background. So great card. Show that card, and really pretty stamp too. I love that. Very, very cool. All right, this next one, Keisha did this card. It's a cool, I love the cool fold. It's like, you see it? See, it's like a little stand-up. I just love how the whole scene, when it opens up, it stands, and I love that the bright colors. Keisha always uses really bright, bold, vivid colors, but I love the contrast on black. So here's a lot of elements. So of course, this is incorporating the stamps. This is from Stampers Anonymous, right? Those, I don't know, maybe they're called tiny frights or something like that, but just in the dead of night. So take your stamps and see how you can incorporate it with your dies. There's nothing wrong with that. I love that little color blend that she did over Fright. And then there is our witch with the broom, the pumpkins, the potion bottle, the couple of cats. I mean, it's really fun when you start cutting things out. And my advice when you're working on stuff, especially as we get into the season, compartmental making. And what that means is, yeah, if you have just that inspiration and the time that you want to sit down and create something like this from start to finish, go for it. You do you. But if it's very overwhelming to do something like this, or you say to yourself, I don't have time to do that, I think you do have time. You're just not allowing yourself the time to play. So my advice would be, sit down for a week if you want. And every time that week, when you have time to create, die cut things. Maybe that's shapes, maybe that's inked backgrounds that you've done that now you don't really like them. Cut those apart. Or maybe things that you like, cut out keywords out of things and create piles of die cuts. Then maybe stamp a bunch of sentiments one day, or while you're watching YouTube or TV. And then you have elements, so when you sit down to make, you have all those components to just create something really in a matter of minutes. And that to me is a way to kind of take away that overwhelmed feeling that we get for the season. So Juliana created this. I love, again, just that wicked. Love the colors where you just take that word and it's layered right over that witch, which is layered right over that spider web. So when you see those vaults, we're talking about the 3 different dyes already. They all work together. Even though they're separate, you can easily just go in and layer these, and I think that is very cool. And I love how Juliana created this. There's that black texture paste. Black texture paste, again, thank you, Ranger, for, we launched this last Halloween and they put it in the everyday line. It is great because it is black matte, easy to go through a stencil, but provides really great crisp texture on a card because it looks like paper because it dries completely matte. But that means if you add some spritz, which she did, can you see that? All those little colors of spritz, see all those little colorful sprinkles everywhere? It will go right over that paste as well. So I love that. I love just that little shine of distress spritz on a card. Halloween is my jam for sure. Barbara created this card, so we're going to kind of go from the words and then we start talking about other elements that makers use. This is one of my favorite 3D folders. I think this was called Cracked or Crackle. It just has this, I don't know, it almost looks like shattered glass, but it creates a really unique texture that when you can do ink or foundry wax, or you can rub anything over the top of it and it highlights it, but doesn't it create a cool crackle finish? I love that. So I love that Barbara used that. Then we've got Fright. Look how she just used those little mice, rats, whatever you want from that Vault Wicked set. And I love how she just has them hanging off the word. Then we've got the wreath. She didn't use any flowers. You don't have to. That twiggy wreath is great. There's our cat sitting right in there, all sparkly in its glory, and all the little stars. Fun. So just get those components, even if you're like, oh, well, I'm just cutting it out of glittery paper. Great, because then when you need that element for a card, it's ready. And all of these stars, could you use a stencil? Yes, but the fact that you can have these little stars already die cut, and you could either glue them on, or if you already run your paper through a Xyron where they're peel and stick, it really makes assembly super fast. I love the little bit of ribbon. Just great card. A lot of fun. Then we have this next make, fabulous make from Emma. This is using an Etc. tombstone kit. So this is like the Etc. tag from Stampers Anonymous, but retailers worldwide sell Etc. Then it has these kind of toppers and footers where you can create this kind of tombstone look. You don't have to. You can use these pieces separately. But I love how Emma incorporated a lot of elements. This is also one of the Etc. pieces. There's some trims with the cobwebs and bats. But this piece does sit up because it's got a base, so it stands up. It's got enough foundation. But look at all the great texture that she did. Little grit paste in there. I always love the detail Emma does. That wicked in there with that metallic sheen. Maybe it's a little bit of foundry wax on there. The foundry wax makes it looks just like a piece of metal. So good. But take a look at this wreath. This wreath is just like, oh, are you kidding? Because here we can see all of the distressed spritz, or you can use mica stain, but it's on black, so spritz is going to give you a better result. And how she just spritzed all the different colors on those elements, stacked them, mixed them. There's our raven. So you can take that raven. That's why I said that we needed that newer size, because it just fits really well in the wreath. Not that you have to have that. You could have a bigger one in there, but it just fit perfectly. And then there's that little spider coming down. And I also love how she did that little Gothic portrait at the top. You'll also notice in the background, see that spider web? That's from the die as well. It's a great technique to take a die and just cut parts and pieces, glue it down, and then paint over it. So it's almost like using an embossing folder on surfaces that you can't necessarily emboss, because it's kind of like a die cut as a texture. So glue it down first and then do all of your painting. It's just absolutely beautiful just to take all these little elements and put those onto the back. So you can use so many different components. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. Such a great make. So it's kind of that, a little bit of a wonderful little touch to it. And a great transition to just do a touch of fall. I had some makers that wanted to do, actually I'll bring all of these in, because this will be like our touch of fall, which I think is important. Zoe Scarpelli, Kathy, and Debbie just did a couple of fall pieces. And I love that because, yes, this is Halloween, but there's definitely things that you can do to make this very fall. So I'm just going to pull these off to the side. So this first one, Zoe Scarpelli did just a card for fall. There's that little alphabet from the Coffin Box. There's the wreath. And just taking some of those elements and using your inks, your spritz, whatever you want. There you can see a little bit of foundry wax splattered, some stenciling. But you can utilize these components however you want for whatever season. You just have to look at it in, well, a different light, I guess. Kathy created this. I love a little bit of ideology in there with the sellotape, the frames. There you can see that wreath. I love all the flowers. So if you have all of your color cardstock, or maybe you have your pre-inked paper, use those. Die cut those elements. Such a cool card. And if you love the collage look, well, then just do collages. So there again, compartmental making. Maybe one day you're just sitting there doing collage backgrounds with no purpose at all. And then you go to make a card and you're like, oh, hey, I've got that background already. I'm going to stick these wreaths and see, again, layering those. It just creates that perfect twiggy wreath. It's just one of my favorite dies because as you can certainly do one layer, but see when you stack that, it just creates such a cool effect. It also makes a great nest. If you're doing stuff for spring, this, you just lay it on and you can put eggs in there. You just cut little plastic eggs in half and you can make a really cool spring nest out of this die as well. But see, it comes out during Halloween, so then when you want it next year, you're like, where's that die? Gone. Or it's $300. That's what we figure out. And then we have this Debbie Adams. She always really thinks like outside the card, if you will, or beyond, and I like her approach to dies. So this is about just maybe doing a gift, taking some candles and then using your dies. So you can do this out of paper, you can do this out of wax candles, maybe candles that you're going to use for decoration. Maybe you're going to do some LED candles, and it's just taking your die cuts and gluing those on. Adding a little bit of corrugate around there, making this great little closure. I love that little bit of string, little acorn, the leaves. The leaves are done out of fabric and felt, because remember, you can take some thin felt and you can cut with the thinlet out of that. So I just love this fall gift, and you take some shred and yeah, makes a great gift or just a great display piece. So that is something that's also really, really cool to think outside of that. Like, hey, I'm looking for a little sticker or a little accent. Well, that's what dies can be done, you know, just peel and stick. Beautiful, beautiful works. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome. These.
Very cool. Yes. All right. We're going to keep going with a few more. We're going to jump back into Halloween, which is great. Juliana created this card. So here again, taking that raven is perfect inside that wreath. Just cut that out. So here you can see where she used the spring wreath. There's that leafy one cut in black and the twiggy one on top. So already using both of those wreath dies that she has, which I think it's a great way to add some bulk to it. And then just cutting out of different greens and cut your elements. I mean, for packaging, I tend to just cut it one time because I want you to kind of see on the package like, oh, I'm getting one of those. But yes, multiples of these and just start tucking it in, gluing it. I also love just the double bow there. See that purpley bow? Where this, you know, you can zhuzh it, you can fluff that up. But I also love just that wonderful metallic texture in the back, using embossing powder and texture paste and just heating that up and just getting a great background. And there's that spider web that goes right in the center of the wreath, because again, it was all sized to work together. So yes, that spider web fits into the center of that wreath. Cool, right? It's all about the wreath, really. And I think that was one that maybe was kind of overlooked because you're like, yeah, I already got one, you know. But when you maybe understand the full story, that might change, because when they're gone, I know we're going to get the messages going, I'm looking for the wreath that you did with the thing on the, yep, I know. Another wreath. Stacy created this one. So this is an etc. tag, so a little thicker. So if you're into the tag game, because you love to make tags and you're looking for something that has a little bit more substance to it, etc. tags are, again, that heavy board. It is a paper board, but it's very thick, so you can't die cut it. These are laser cut, but it makes a great foundation piece because this could hang on a wall, this can sit on an easel. But I love how Stacy utilized all of these different fall elements, the colors, but then made it very Halloween. Oh my gosh, look at that. I just noticed that. Look at that little apron she did. Stitched right there. Oh, Stacy, come on. Look at that. Just a cut little piece of paper, stitched, and then a little string. That is charming. Just cooking it up. See? Witch Wonders. These are Ideology clippings. So I love she's dropping in that little rat, and she's got potion bottles. There's the skull from the coffin. So see, all those little things. You're like, I need a little bones. Oh, I've got that die. Oh, I need a little skull. Oh, I've got that die. Oh, and I also, look at that. I also love how she incorporated the broom. Oh, there's the raven. See? The more you look, the more you see. I don't get to see these until live, so it's like show and tell for me. I love that, where that little raven's just sitting on one of those little twiggies. So good, right? Oh, there's a little bat up there too. A little leaf. Gosh, fun. I can get lost in dies because it's just, you cut and use, and yeah, you could just die cut and kind of fill a whole muffin tin with die cuts. It's great. Now, as we've seen the wreath for fall and for Halloween, keep in mind that even if you're not into the whole organic leaves nature thing, well, Sharon has you covered. So Sharon created this card, very, very Burton. It's very Tim Burton to me, and I love the look of it. So we've got that beautiful background that's all spritzed, so you can see all that shiny, shimmery spritz. She did the wreath, a couple layers. She has just some flat black, but then she also did some black glitter cardstock, so you can see that little sparkle. But then instead of using any of the components, any of the leaves and flowers, she's like, no way. This is about taking, you can still do the bow, but now you can take the witch hat that's there. You can take the little skull from the Coffin Box, the bats. I love how the bats are out of just a black glossy paper, so everything has different shine. There's a couple little stars from the witch, the potion bottles, and really just make a Halloween wreath. So it is about that structure. That's why I wanted, because trust me, when I was pitching Vault, and I'm like, we're going to do a wreath in Vault 2, a wreath in Halloween, a wreath in Christmas. They're like, isn't that enough? I'm like, nope, because it does give you a great foundation to adorn however you want for whatever season. I mean, it could be Americana, it could be summer. It just has so many great uses when it comes to, especially on a card front, because it still showcases the background. You could put a sentiment in there if ever you want, but yeah, I absolutely love it. I love that Halloween wreath. I love all the sparkly, shiny, yeah, different surfaces and sparkle and shine, man, that's everything. That really is. All right, so we're going to start getting more into the Wicked one, because I have to say that when I look at the makes, it was probably a favorite from a lot of makers because they use so many components from that die set. So Jen created these. I love this whole little set of cards. There again, it's a great making idea. If you have an idea and you found your jam and you like it, not every piece has to be a one-of-a-kinder. It's still one-of-a-kind because you made it one at a time, but you can look at something and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to just sit and do a bunch of backgrounds. Same colors, same thing. You kind of get what you get, and you have backgrounds. Then you're going to die cut things. So again, die cut and stack your layers of cardstock. That's really great. Change up your cardstock, change up your fonts, and I love this whole little card series. This could be something that you make to gift to people to send, or you can create a little stationery set as a Halloween gift if somebody has like a Halloween time birthday. It could be fun little stationery. But I love how she used all those little potion bottles just on top of that word, as if that word is like a little ledge, little cat sitting on top of that, little sparkly stars, and then wicked spooky. So here Jen's just using wicked, you know, in her vocabulary, just wicked spooky. And I love that. I think it's great because those fonts do work really well together. I know, I love all the sparkle and the metallic and Halloween time. Mario's just laughing because I'm worse than a 5-year-old. I love Halloween. I love it.
Like Halloween here started in July.
I love it. I do. Zoe Scarpelli created this. Love the little pumpkin patch. Again, just taking that pumpkin from the witch and cutting several. I love how it's hidden behind that little bit of fabric there, little mummy cloth. She just uses the cat head, so it's just poking out. So if you don't want to use a whole cat body, that's very clever. Again, used for the dies, where you just cut off the head and stick that in. There's a little hat. That's what I was talking about, the web, just cutting it straight across and using it as a different element, using the other half coming up from the bottom. And then she has the word Fright in there. And you can see just that little bit of spritz. See? Because it looks black, because it is, but then you give it a little spritz, and then when the light hits it, you've got that wonderful spice marmalade shining on there. So, yeah. And then, of course, let's not forget just the great background of stamps. That's why you have your stamps and inks and sprays and all the good stuff. So, yeah. Fun elements. You just use it. And elements can inspire you. So Tammy B created this, and I think it's really important, and I'll shout out to the makers, because I love that when the makers make, they really are just so comfortable that they do what inspires them. So if you're inspired to make a card, make a card. If your card grows into something else, maybe it becomes a panel. If the panel becomes something else, maybe it becomes a vignette. And all of those ideas, like this box, I brought it because it's like, okay, you use very similar components to Zoe's card, different, and in a completely different way. So here she's got that pumpkin right in the middle. That's kind of the focal point, but she put it in an ideology vignette box. So it's just one of the smaller boxes. It doesn't always have to be big. I love how she did the texture on the outside, so it just kind of looks like it's done out of concrete. Just take the cobblestone stencil, use a little bit of, this is probably crypt paste because it's got those little speckly flecklies in there, so it looks like rock. There's that boo, the pumpkin, the two cats. There's that little raven right there. And then she even took, can you guys see that? There you go. That light hits it perfect. See the branches? How she's got a branch coming on the top, some of them on the inside, and then put a little bit of that hanging moss, but it looks like just the string from mummy cloth, you know, where you just take and pull apart some of that mummy cloth, but it looks just like Spanish moss hanging from those branches. Isn't that cool? And then you've got the background, because yes, I've also done a branch stamp, so you can use a stamp in the background, the bats. I just love that, Tammy. Oh, there's a little moon and cloud back there. See? You just get carried away in the story. Just great. And then it can just sit up, so you can put little battery operated tea light there. You can put the tiny lights back there, even those little balloon lights, which I love for Halloween. Just fun ideas. And speaking of fun, Tammy B messaged me about this, and I was like, absolutely. So inspiration is everywhere, right? And I think it is important to not only be inspired by somebody, but give that somebody full credit for the inspiration. You're still the maker, but if you're inspired by something you see, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm inspired by this. And also, if that person is very well known, especially like an artist, this gentleman, this is Jeff Granitos. He's actually an artist and he does art for Disney. She was inspired by his work. So she asked him like, hey, I'm inspired by your work and I'm working on this. Can I send in these pieces that were inspired by your work? And he's like, absolutely. So see, even messaging someone, they're often very flattered. Not everybody is. Some people are like, no, because of license and trademark. Never judge their reasoning. But I love the fact when creativity could be not only shared but supported. And Tammy was inspired by Jeff's work. So if you Google Jeff Granito, you'll be able to see this, and I'm sure Tammy will talk about it too on her social. But I love how she made these little cards. So she just created this whole little series of cards using some of the retro dies that we've had before, the little cat, the bottle, and really it is so inspired by his art. I love the colors, the vibe. It's very tiki, and I absolutely love the whole tiki thing. So I just think it is very, very fun. So being inspired by artists that do fine art for a living, I think is really great to see that. And I'm sure he's just going to be blown away by seeing that done with paper supplies and dyes because he's a painter. So very cool. Fun, Tammy B. I love that she followed through with that. She's like, I'm going to do it. I'm like, ask him. And came through. It was so cool. So here we got a shakety shake. Joy did this. Look at that. A shakety shake and a thinger. Little wobbler. Look at that. Oh, she's flying. Wow. This is like Wobble 4.0. Look at that thing. I love that. So I love the little shakety shake that Joy did. There's our witch holding a little potion bottle. That's probably why she's like tipsy. Tipsy witchy. There you go. So fun. Yeah, that's it. She's holding that bottle. She's like, I'm going to see New Kids. All right. So take a look. Very cute. I love the little sprinkles in there. And it's so important, really, to use these elements that maybe you haven't used for a long time, especially for the season. If you haven't done shakers or glitter, this is the time. Halloween and Christmas is really where you get your sparkle on. And if you're not into sparkle, maybe you get in your metallics or your textures. I think that's absolutely fun. Yeah, it's just really great. Yeah, I could just sit here and do that that's it. I could do that for hours, that's for sure. Shakety shake. There you go. Tifa created this. Again, another card envelope. And I love seeing all of this contrast on black. So this is the envelope. She has a little Velcro there. I just took the card out already because I always want to just see the card right away. But I love how she just does this out of black cardstock. This would be, of course, Distress Spritz on this side to create that beautiful metallic. And then Distress Spritz on the die cut pieces. How great is that? And then just glued on the side. But I really love how she kind of split that envelope and use the die cuts on one side, use this on the other because maybe you're going to put, an address label there to send it. And then, of course, there's our card. But the card, it's really cool because it's spritz on black. We've got Hocus Pocus. So that's done, of course, from that coffin set. But there we go. I was hoping I could do that as I was blah, blah, blahing. Look at the metallic she used. So she used, it almost looks like mica. I want to say that it's mica, but I don't know because I didn't do it. But it really looks like she die cut thin sheets of mica on the hat, on the dress part of the witch, and these little stars. I don't know. Maybe it's a little foundry. I'm stumped because the shine is so mirrored, so reflective. I also love the little pen work that's in there, that little neon pink. It's just really cool. But yeah, you can see that. Can you see just really how it's so reflective? Beautiful. Yeah, love it. It's always cool to see.
Yes, Micah.
Wow. Wow, that's brilliant, Tifa. I mean, really, it adds a shine. It almost just looks like, like liquid platinum or liquid mercury. It just has that great mirror quality. But beautiful. Great colors, great fun, and really that splash of pink. Isn't that great? Just going in and doing that. So, yeah, a little mica. Very cool. Very cool. All right. This next card Barbara did. See, again, I told you they were the fans of the witch, and that's great. But everyone did it so different, right? Everyone has a completely different personality onto how that is created. So I love the spiderweb background. Again, just die cut, stuck down, and you can fill in a whole background on the card as Barbara did. So it is important when you think about the die and you're like, okay, it's just that shape. Yes, it can be a focal point, but you just cut it and glue it, cut another one, and you just have them touch, and it looks like one seamless large plate die, which it isn't. It's just something that is used. You can see when the light hits it, boom, you see that touch of purple that just kind of explodes in the background? Well, that would be the magic of spritz. When you see spritz in action, it goes on. It's not going to compromise the color, but when the light hits it, that's when you get that little spritz of magic. And I love how she also used it on the witch. Again, double layered and offset for a little dimension. Little spiders, the bat, it's great. Fun use for product, and especially on the cards. I think it's great. Goubert created this scene. Again, blending, spraying, using your inks, using your stencils, using your stamps, and create this. You know, this color palette is very candy corn for me, so I do love that. Love the little ghosty over here. Again, little pen work for the stockings, the cat, the bats, and then Hocus Pocus. There's our little raven. So you'll see that when you start using it, and even if you don't have all the dies, right? You know, we talk about the dies, but it is also important to remember that if your budget tells you otherwise when you're shopping, use what you have. Even if you're saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to get one of those dies. Great. Oh, but I really want to replicate that. Well, go in your stash. You might have a font that could work. You might have a stamp. You never know. You might have stickers you haven't used. So it is about kind of morphing and using other things together, because these dies would really go great with so many previously released dies that we've done. So I think that's important to remember. But I love the scenes that the makers do. I think Halloween and Christmas, Mario, don't you think? Like, it just gives them a whole reason to kind of also think story.
I think
Yeah,
so.
it does, I think. So Kathy created this. This is a vignette tray. Ooh, look at that. Look at that stencil. See, that was one of the stencils we did this year, but it is really good for Halloween. I love how Kathy did that in black texture paste on an orange painted vignette tray. Ooh, that is very Gothic wallpaper. See, black texture paste for the win. It's really good stuff, especially for Halloween, because it's so matte that it has like a paper quality. Then she went in, look at this panel. Love that, using, looks like alcohol pearls on that black, looks like black Durabrite under there. Some black alcohol ink, big moon cut, little bats. There's our witch, the cat, the pumpkin. There's that little graveyard. You could just put two together just to fill in the scene. Then we've got that wonderfully wicked cut. And then just using, these look like little ideology baseboards that she did some crackle paste on. Ooh, look at that. Oh, look at the creepy eye. That's awesome. I love, there's a bird, little raven there, and the rat, little ghosty flying out. Oh, see? See, look at that big spider going across that web. That is creepy cool. So good. And then little potion bottles in the window. So yeah, quite the story, because, you know, any piece that you work on, whether you're working on vignette boxes or whether you're working on trays or anything like that, it's so good. And just taking all these elements and putting them together. Yeah, it's just all it's the texture, the shine, the finish. Yeah, beautiful. And remember, as I'm showing these makes, you know, if you want to get an up close and personal look at these, check out the makers, follow them. Mario posts the links throughout the live. There's a maker page on timholtz.com with all the makers, and the makers post their makes on social, usually on Instagram. Some do tutorials, some post on YouTube, but it's usually on Instagram. And then of course, all the makes are always put on timholtz.com following the live, because sometimes people go, I wish you could just hold it there for 5 minutes in the video. Well, that's never going to happen. But in a photo, like on Instagram, is a great way that you can save it, screenshot it, bookmark it for a better visual of the make. I like to see the details, right? That's the beauty of that. Look at that. See, I would have never noticed that. Fun. All right. This next one, I love how makers just think beyond the page. So Rochelle created this. This is an Ideology reliquary dome. So we have a lot of different glass domes in Ideology, display domes, mini domes. The reliquary dome is this arch, kind of flat dome. So you can see it's got two flat sides. And what's great is it does a perfect job of displaying. So here she created this whole little scene where that spider web is suspended in the back. So I'll carefully do this. So see, so that's actually glued into, Rochelle's like, careful. That's glued into the back. You can see just little touches of glue. Collage medium, distress collage medium will glue to glass. So that's just kind of shaped and suspended in the back. And then there's her scene glued onto that cork base. She's got the little sign with Boo and the Raven, the witch, the cat, the pumpkins, and then when you put them together, let me put that right over the top. There we go, there we go. Perfect. Now you've got a whole little scene. And this, you know, you could do shakety shakes. You could have little glitter, little bats, or you could, you know, put lights behind something. But I love the fact that taking die cut pieces and creating this scene in there, having something attached. Oh, there's a little eek in the back, see? Because you are going to turn around just like I did. So I love how she finished the back. I love that little surprise there. But taking those components and building a scene with the dies, it's really cute. It's a great thing to do. And that's what I love about this particular type of dome, because it doesn't, you know, if everything's always rounded, it does provide a bit of distortion. And that's what's fun about these reliquary domes, is they have that front facing flat side. So you can display on both sides of it. Yeah, great make, Rochelle. Fun.
Super fun.
And the makers just really kind of went all out. I think that's super important. And speaking of all out, we'll talk about Debbie Adams again. Now, I have to say, Debbie made something, and she's like, I made something, but it's going to need to go on a cake. I'm like, cake? No problem. So we went out and got a coconut cake because, well, it sounded really good. Put a little bit of candy on it. So I'm going to tip this. Maybe the candy is going to fall off because I put it on. But this is what Debbie created. Oh, there we go. I knew that candy was going to come off.
You said it was.
Yeah.
I can't wait for
That's
coconut
right.
cake.
I'm just going to let the candy fall because I want to show off Debbie's work. There we go. This is what she created. She created this really cool, clever idea that I have not seen in a live before. Probably good because we would eat a cake every live. This is not a challenge makers, but I do love that she created this cake wrap, and it's just taking cardstock, cutting a band, and then she used all of her dyes and inking and just did this wrap. And this wrap, I'll disassemble now because now that's it. I'm just going to peel this off. It's just, there we go. This is what it is. Isn't that brilliant? It's very, very clever. You can do this for a cake. You can do it for cupcakes. I just saw, and it's just paper. I mean, so it's not like, you know, food safe, Mylar. It's just cardstock. It's just paper, so it would be totally fine on food. But she did a little splattering. There's the die cuts, and I just love how she did that wrap sticking out of the top. She made it a big enough size. Just kind of use a little bit of tape to create the wrap. And I thought that is so perfect because this could go around a cake, but this could also go around a container. Maybe you have like a cylinder container that you're going to have candy in, and this is a great wrap around, you know, a glass cylinder container that you have. I just thought it was very, very clever. Maybe you're going to do a fall floral arrangement. That's good, but a cake wrap? Come on.
Maybe we're just going to have a little cake.
Yeah, we're going to eat that afterwards, so we can get that. It's like coconut cake. We were happy about having that. I think that's really good. Thanks, Mario.
Sure.
There you go. Isn't that cool? That's just really, and well, listen, that coconut cake just made it really fun, just because it was kind of ghosty fun. There you go. Thanks. Thanks, Mario.
Sure.
All right, we're gonna clean. Look at that, candy and coconut. That's gonna be. I'm not gonna eat that though. There we go. All right, super fun. I mean, really, just the makers, right? What they think. Like, woo. Okay. Well, buckle up, because here's another one. This one was like it definitely took me back. Okay? Just going to let that sit there for a second just so you can see that. These were made by Anita. And Anita reached out to Paul. She's like, I have this crazy idea, but I'm just going for it and I'm committed, and those are going to be my makes. And Paul's like, great, go for it. And she attached them to cards, and she had little pillow boxes, I'll be honest, but they're so stunning that it didn't need any of that. I just wanted to show them for what they are, because there again, this is a first. I've never seen anything like this. So Anita created resin jewelry out of these dies. Okay, these are die cut, coated in resin, so they're actually solid pieces, and then added stones, all different gemstones. She added some little stones that you can hang. You can alcohol ink little stones if you have some ideology, but like this is, and it's a wearable brooch. So these are completely coated in resin. So it's not like it's going to deteriorate or disintegrate. It is jewelry. It's got a pin back on it that's attached by the resin, but this becomes Halloween brooches. So I love how she did the spider web, the spider, and Boo. I love how she did the witch with the broom. So you can see that layer of resin on there. So they're all coated. So it's not like flimsy paper. Isn't that amazing? Look at all, I mean, just the amount of time to just put in all of those little stones, because they're all little sparkly stones. Look at that little green stone for her eye, on her broom, on the hat, and it's coated on both sides. It's like just so amazing, so cool. Then we've got Wicked, just using the banner. Fabulous, right? I mean, it's like, what? Like a dye into resin jewelry, because a lot of people are into resin and they're pouring resin and they're doing this, but to just coat your paper in resin, brilliant. And then adding the stones, like what a touch. And then there you go again, these little sparkly danglies, inked to match. Beautiful. Then we've got some little portraits, so take a look at that. We've got a little frame. So again, that's the frame from Vault Boutique. There's the moon, little star. There's the cat with the green eyes. Can you see that? There we go. Wild. And I love how the gold bumps match. Again, just changing something from flat paper into just beautiful brooches. And I mean, that's what's so cool, because it has such a nostalgic vibe. Look at this, where she took the portrait, colored her green. Love that little witch, and even the little green glitter in her hair, and then took the hat and added the hat to the portrait. Now it's a witch portrait, and put it in the frame. I mean, come on. How long did each one of these take? That's just like so good. It's amazing. Yeah, and all of them have pin backs. They're all brooches. I love that witch portrait. And then this one, I know that if you are a fan of the cat, so cute, because I love how she took the bow, this big purple bow from the wreath, and then put it around the cat. But, you know, to make it obviously show, she put it behind the cat and then just put these in front. So I really love how she was able to manipulate the layers and have it look like that cat's got a big purple bow tied around its neck, and all those little stones. There you go. I'll just tip it to the light so you can see. I mean, they're so shiny. They're shiny and sparkly, and I mean, just imagine sitting and making a whole series of just these. All these little cat pendants. Just clever. Out of die cuts and paper and resin. So, and I'm sure Anita will share her tips and tricks and how she did it, because many makers do. But yeah, I've just never seen anything like that. When Paula sent, she's like, check this out. I'm like, is that real? And she's like, yeah, they're coated in resin. Like, just unbelievable. Yeah, it's like, now I need to learn more about resin, because I've seen a lot of resin pours and resin dips, but I've never seen resin paper, and the fact that it stayed totally flat. Just beautiful. So I wanted to put it on a tray because, well, it's worthy of a silver tray. I think it's great.
They're awesome.
It's so cool, Anita. Like, wow, wow, wow. All right, we're going to keep going. Going to get into kind of the ghosty and spooky spirits. So Kath created this. There's some little tiny lights in the window. This is an etc. tag, and I love how Kath not only did the spooky ghost, but really she just gave it a touch of whimsy with the flowers. So this is a great reminder that even though you have flowers that go on a wreath, those flowers could adorn any other type of project that you're doing. You can see the background. Kath created that wonderful brick. This is a 3D texture fade I did with Sizzix. Created a beautiful brick wall. It's the same one that Zoe used in her fireplace. I also love how we've got all of those great flowers and leaves, and then she just has these ghosts coming everywhere. And if you stocked up on Ideology Shattered, remember these little shattered window panes? She's got the ghosties. There you go. See that? So it's the transparency with those cutouts. Or she's got the ghosties just flying out of that window. Some mummy cloth curtains kind of blowing in there. That's just a fun make, Kath. I love that. And really, I love the touch of flowers, because maybe you like Halloween, but you don't like the gothic, creepy, scary. Very cute. I think that's just fun. So good. Kath made this one too. So see, I sometimes when I'm setting up and I see makes from makers, a lot of times I can guess, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, I have to see who did it, because, you know, we make sure that all the makers are marked on there. But then I was like, how do you go from this to this? But the flowers could have been the giveaway, but I love that the color palette's totally different, and even the idea. So this is kind of like a little pop-up card. So you can see how the ghosts, see how they just fly in the background? That's so fun. Oh, I think he's hanging out on that little twig. Let me free him, Kath, so he can fly free. There we go. He's kind of hung up. There we go. So just taking the sides and just kind of pinching that. See how they're suspended on transparencies, but they're just flying in the sky. That is so clever. So I love the little ghosts. Oh, look, don't freak your freak. I just thought it said freak freak. Now I got it. Don't freak your freak. You know it, Kath. Brilliant. Little spider webs there. So the spider webs, the spider webs she used as a mask. So these aren't even die cut. So that's a great idea. Starting with black cardstock, I'm just guessing. She die cut the spider web, placed it down, did a little dry brushing over the top, and then lifted it off. So she just used it as a mask to create those backgrounds. Ghosts, little flowers, and yeah, I love the little flying ones. And then there's the moon. That was from last year. Remember Moonlit, where we had the big moon dies and the bats? See? Again, interactive all day. Oh, he wants to hang out in the twigs. Oh, there we go. But I kind of like him in the twigs too. See? There he goes. Yeah, he's doing his thing. Brilliant idea. So clever. And just really, the ideas, they make me smile. They make me laugh. It's just great. So Barbara created this card. I love, again, you can go from silly fun to just get your creep on. So here she used the coffin. And even though the coffin is a box, this just shows you can still just use that top. So you can cut out the lid portion of that and just cut off the little tabs or fold them under if you want a little bit of dimension. But I love how Barbara used that coffin lid as a die cut element for the card. You can see all those little branches, those twigs kind of going out. So if you don't want to use a spider web, this kind of looks like it's kind of shattered out of this card, just creeping out. There's our scary little ghosts. I love how she used some glossy accents on there. Maybe she used ultra thick because it does look really thick on there. And then there's our layered boo. Ooh, creepy eye for the win. I love these. I wish we had them in ideology, but they didn't come back. But man, they're just fun. Every time I see them, I've stocked up. But I love them as an embellishment. Love the little metallic, and again, the colors always fun. That makers they go in with the color palette. So it could be, purpley blue. It could be just orange and black with some chartreuse in there. It's just, so much fun. All right. So you can go from colorful to absolutely simplified perfection. So Vicky created this. This just shows the power of design. And I'm not saying that to honk my own horn. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that if you have shapes that really have great design, you can create anything, and you don't need to necessarily ink, crackle, glitter, splatter, sparkle. Vicky just used Ideology craft stock in black. So craft stock is a craft paper, craft paper coated in color. So we sell it in multi-packs, but we also have it just in black. And so here she die cut that and then goes in and sands it, and that's what reveals the craft. So imagine just doing such a great make by cutting your pieces out, giving a little sand and scuff to them, and layering them together. Isn't that a great card? So cool. And this is what I was saying again about ideas. If you're watching lives, and I know that, when you're watching live itself, it's very overwhelming because it's like shiny object, Mario says to me, because there's a lot going on. There's me talking, there's showing makes, there's sometimes demos, there's links, there's shopping, there's chats in the chat that, some people are talking about the weather, or maybe we're talking about cake, and you can miss some things. But this is why it's really important to not only watch the replay, but also just take notes of things, because then you remember to go back and look for the idea, especially on card using just black cardstock sanded. That's good. It may not make sense, but at least to go back and look for it. And when the timestamps are there, you should be able to find the elements. But I just thought the idea was really great, especially when you see all the different makes and how impactful just black cardstock can be. And sand it. It's like, I'm totally going to do that. I'm going to get my little distress sanding tool and off we go. Put it on and go. Then we go from, creepy plain to just colorful. This is Sharon. This is hilarious. This is it was a laugh out loud last night when I was setting up, because it is just really a funny idea for those ghosts. The ghosts are such a perfect size because they're tiny that you can add. So you can do this as a 4-up, you can do it as a 6-up, or you can just do a full card panel. Boo to you. This is from Stampers Anonymous. This is one of the stamps. But look, not only that, but she kind of layered the tiles, but I love all the fun color. But also, even though it's two ghosts, they all look like they have a completely different expression. Hilarious. It's just so funny to create. And I think that Sharon always delivers with color. And, you know, seeing these colors together, it's still very much Halloween, but also really, really fun. The little ghosty squares. So hilarious. And just how they're cropped and like that guy underneath, you know, because you can see his arms up, but then it just looks like he's hanging upside down. So funny. Clever, right? The whole idea. Now, another thing to note about the ghost is that, you know, when you cut these out, it does cut out, like the mouth comes out as an opening. So if you want that, it's just a good idea to sometimes put just part of the die, like just the head part of the die on black cardstock, run it through, and you can inlay the mouth, or you can go in and just color that in or paint it in. But clever. Made me laugh out loud. And so did the next one. And I just thought, I don't think Tammy and Sharon were kind of talking to each other, but like, seriously? Outtakes. This is like ghosty selfies. I love this vignette that Tammy B created because it's got a whole story, but when I saw that it said outtakes, it just reminded me of like Sharon's card in the photos. So this is a small vignette box, but wait till you see all the details. It's just really funny. So we've got our little characters in there, all dressed up, and I love how they adorn. Tammy went in and adorned with like the little bow, the little stars. Put it in that frame. See, that frame is very important from Vault 2. When you see that frame, you're like, what would I do with the frame? Well, you've seen it now with the ghosts. You've seen it with the portraits. Then she used the font for outtakes, but then we start looking around the back. So she's got the film strip. This is from the picture wheel vault. And then she used the spiders as if the spider was like trying to get in on that for selfies. But then she also used the raven, you know, like the raven's in and out and just like a movie, you know, where it just comes in different cells. And then she even used the mouse and the rat. So just the detail of this band alone is a great idea just for a card front. Like, I appreciate that she did this as a trim because, well, Tammy B is all about like the ultimate in detail. But I thought, what a great idea just to have that strip running down a little card and then have Happy Halloween, where you just use the film strip and these little shapes as almost like outtakes, positioning them in different positions. Isn't that clever? Really good. And then look at the back. I love how she just used that larger film square that's also in that picture wheel die and then just did the ghosties. I'm not sure if this is vellum or if this is translucent Yupo or maybe it's something else, but they definitely have a ghosty vibe, something very translucent and sheer, but how they're layered, it's hilarious because she kept it all translucent. So that looks like a little vellum layer in the back, but that's a little milkier, but might be vellum, might be Yupo, but either one would work. And then she's got some shiny little stars. That, of course, is from the Vault Witch, but how fun. Starting with this, I mean, that's what I'm saying, like each element, like that could be an idea. Done. That's an idea. Done. And then you have that idea. There's so many ideas on a single make that you can replicate the whole thing, or you can just say, I love that, or even just dressing up the little ghosties. So much fun. I absolutely love it. It's brilliant. The details, gosh, it's amazing.
You do
Amazingly,
love ghosties,
I
though.
do.
My God.
Yeah, amazing magical details, I do. Emma created this. So this is a panel. So the etc. we talk about that a lot. It's a great foundation that a lot of makers use because it is that thick board. You can just use it for so many different things. It comes in tags. It comes in, well, like the tombstone kits and tiles. It also comes in panels. So Emma created this. I also love how she has the little ideology hinge clips and book rings and chain, like the metal chain just gives it such a great detail. Little sewing around the edges. And then we've got the whole Sleepy Hollow theme. So here she cut out Sleepy Hollow using that alphabet from the Coffin Box die. Little alcohol ink on there. And then we've got the little cemetery. That's the cross from the Coffin Box with the raven. See, it's so interesting how all these elements go together. Oh, look. Oh, I just noticed it. I'm talking to myself. Look, Tim, stop talking. These are the branches turned into trees. So the branches, look at that. The branches, trees. Remember when I said these are branches and sticks? There you go. So you just take them and you layer them and you make creepy trees because they just line up and layer. Very cool. Love that. See, Pete at Sizzix, I think just they shared a make that he did maybe today also with like trees in a dome. But remember, just take those branches and create the tree. I love how Emma did that. Then we've got the ghosties, the little clouds, little bats. Isn't that just such a great scene? Oh, and she even added the leaves from the wreath die, like falling leaves from the tree. See so many different things. From the coffin box, from the coffin box, from the witch, from the graveyard, the ghost, and the twigs, and from the wreath. Like, just, this is where, like Zoe said at the beginning, like, collect them all. Because when you start building, you do have all those little pieces to say, oh, I wish I had little leaves for the tree. Well, hey, wait a minute, I have that wreath die. Yeah, it's a wreath die, but then you have a whole bunch of leaves now to, and think about that. You can turn these trees year round with those other wreath dies because you'll have little flowers to put on it. Gosh, brilliant. So fun. What a great make. And I love just that shine. Again, there's all little bits of sprays and mica and oh, so good. So much fun. The makers inspire me beyond words. They really do. They just, it's so cool to me.
I love hearing you
All
surprised.
right. Well, it just,
Like,
it just took me a minute because I'm like, because I was going to talk about the trees and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. All right. So Kath created this little set. Look at these. Look at these cute cards using dies. So if you've been seeing a lot of creep and you're like, yeah, I don't do creepy things. I don't do vignettes or frames. If you do cards, these are some great ideas that the makers share. So Kath created these. We start with a little circle. So I love just that inky circle. She uses the alphabet, again, cut twice for the offset. It just makes it easier, but you could also go in and do a gel pen, but there you go. Googly eyes. Googly eyes under those hats. Have those hats ever looked so cute? Come on. That's just cute, Kath. Adorable. Googly eyes and pom-poms. Listen, that's like a maker stash. You may not use it for a long time, but it's in the stash. And that just makes this hat worth having. Just like, okay. And I saw somebody, maybe Anita said like sorting hat at the beginning. So yes, very, very Harry Potter as well. But I love just the idea of googly eyes under the hat. That's clever. That's fun. Then taking the same idea of just starting with that circle, just because it could be like a glowing moon or it could just be a nice shape to do. And then we've got the witch with the broom, all just done in black. Eek, little bats, and there's our cat. And because the cat eyes are cut out, you can see that little orange coming through the back. Clever, clever, clever. And then a little hocus pocus. So we've got the wonderful green and a little splattering of gold. There's our moon, our stars, and that little raven. But really just cute. So if you had the compartmental making and you were just die cutting things out of black, that's what you have to think about. And out of white, if you wanted to layer, you could have a bowl of different things and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Well, let's stick this here and this here. And maybe we want to spell it out, or, oh, maybe that's too much work. I'll just use a stamp, or maybe it's something from ideology. But makes definitely become a lot quicker if you already have elements done ahead of time before you start assembling. I think it's really, really good. Beautiful. And that's the whole purpose of the ideas. All right. Speaking of ideas, we're going to get into a vignette. So Kathy created this. This one actually lights up. It has tiny lights in a little cauldron in there. But I'm going to have to tip it just so the light shines inside, and then I'll bring it the right way. But here you can see that it's two vignette boxes. So we've got a rectangle and a square, and she made scenes in there. This is what I was talking about, that if you're die cutting things and it kind of grew beyond the card, a vignette is a great way to do that. And as your ideas build, you can just glue the vignettes together to make it. But she's got the little witch, and see how she's got that little rat actually on string. So it hangs there. But she has it over a cauldron. Oh, she also, look at that, another tree. See, went to see it, and now it's like, there it is. Little tree in the back, stack of potion bottles. I love how she's got these little cubes where it says beware. She's got the spider web in the back, and there's more texture going around with the texture paste. But then in the bottom, take a look at that little scene. Look at that, the coffin boxes. I love the coffin boxes I love these little hands. What are these little hands? I think these hands, I don't know. They kind of look like the bottom of the ghosties, but I think it's got to be something else. But look at those little hands from, I don't know, maybe Paula knows. I don't know. They might be from a previous die. Maybe from like I don't know, I might have done a early skeleton walking die, maybe zombies. But I love the wood grain and how she took the wood grain, but then like cut the coffin box out of black and then just use wood grain strips to kind of build little slats and planks and kind of eroded some of it. So see how it's just done in strips? Because you can do wood grain. We'll talk about wood grain cardstock at the end in a little bit. But I do love that. I love those little hands. The bones, the skull. I love how she added like a little piece of bark. And then, oh, there's another tree back there in black, and the ghost and the moons and the clouds. Just fun little details. So here, I'll put it like that. Again, you can just take and do a scene or a scene. So, I mean, there's so many different things. They are from Ghoulish. Okay, thanks. I thought so. Because Ghoulish is like, it's got like a walking zombie, a vampire, and I think a walking skeleton as well. So, yeah, that's good. That one's really old. Wow, I love that. I love the idea of the creepy little hands. So fun. All right. Great make. Oh, so much inspiration, right? Okay, it is, really is. It's so much inspiration. All right, so next up, we'll talk about just a fun whimsy idea. Zoe Hillman created this. I just displayed it in a little jar of candy corn because, look, if you can display it with candy, it just makes life so much better. So I have this little vintage jar, but look at these favors that she made. And I'm so glad that she did, just because it shows that the dies that you have, especially like if you got the rosette from the last vault, that it can be used for the season. So I'll take these out, but Zoe created these little favors they're on paper straws. And I love how she used the rosette and used the new dies. So there's Boo, there's a little portrait. Here's one with the spider. And I'll bring up the rosettes because she even stamped on them as well. And then she even did the same with the Coffin Box, just turn those into favors. So you can load them up with candy, or you can put little bells so maybe they ring. I mean, the idea, it's cute. Then there's a little bit of ideology fringe. So this was out maybe a couple of years ago and it's been retired. But I think like you can try to find it at retailers. I think Simon Says got like a last minute stash of it. I was chatting with Zoe and I'm like, I think I have some, but I have tons. I have like 15 packs because I love this. This is crepe paper that you just wrinkle in your hands and it makes the best fringe. But look at these rosettes that Zoe did. So the backgrounds, they're all stamped. So you've got that little spider web back there. You've got that little chevron. This one has text. So using your stamps and your inks to create your background papers, and these are just great. These could be, these could be party favors. So if you're doing a Halloween party, or just if you're doing a Halloween gift, you can attach it to that. I just love the idea of the paper rosettes, especially for seasonal. You know, they could be Halloween, Christmas, spring, anything, but really a coffin on a stick. Come on, that is so cute. Little coffin pops, little ink right there. This one's a little wood grain. There's that little hat, skull and crossbones. I mean, the cutest thing really for parties. So many options just to think about the dies in different ways, where you're like, hey, you know, I'm going to a costume party, or my neighbor's hosts this, or I want to do a thank you gift, or maybe you do a decorating party. I just love the idea of taking shapes, especially like the rosette, and using your stamps or your favorite pattern paper, your favorite inks, and just making fun things like this. Even if you're just making it for yourself. Yeah, just cute. Yeah, really. Coffin on a stick. I love it. All right, stick that back in the candy. I do have display candy. All right. This next one, Vicky created this one as well. So this is a little vignette box. And, you know, Vicky was really just going for like the minimal palette. I love that, just minimalist. Like I'm just going to go with just a lot of dark, and it's very moody, and I love that. And I also love how she just really industrialized this particular collection in her true style, right? So this is a vignette box. You can see right here, we've got just the little hardware heads from Ideology. And then she die cut 2 coffin boxes. I love how she put the little hardware on there, so it gave it just a great industrial look. She's got the cobwebs out there, and if you cut the cobwebs, you can cut it out of tissue paper, again, vellum, anything light, even wax paper, and just tack them down so they kind of stay like wispy, if that makes sense. That's just a great addition to your make. Those kind of papers hold up really well to put into the make, but I think that the hardware really adds to this, and I love how she used the Gothic portraits and have them facing just little his and her coffins. Just great. It's a great Halloween make. This is also, I mean, not even for Halloween, there's a lot of people that would just want to hang that on their wall or display it on their mantle, put some candles on top of it. It's just cool. Doesn't always have to be a million things. I love the idea of creating that. Very cool. This one, we're in the home stretch here. This make, Tammy B created. So this is a bed spring. This is a rusty spring. And she did one in the last vault. I think it was more spring. She did like a nest with the birds. But I love how she took a rusty bed spring. You guys see that? Those are cool. You can find those, you know, flea market, antique store, Etsy, eBay. But then she put the spider web across it. I love that, Tammy. It's such a great detail where it's literally connected to the springs. And then she used a colorized tombstone. So that's one from last year. It's a great scale for that spider. I love she's got that creepy spider kind of climbing up. There's some mummy cloth right there, little ideology. And then as you spiral up, she's got, oh, there we go. She's got the little spiders hanging down. Isn't that great? So good. But then when you look up here, it's an open coffin box. I love that she used the box open because it is a box. And yes, when you use it in a setting, it looks great closed, but it also looks so creepy great open. So here she's cut the box. She put it on another spider web. So the spider web is kind of the foundation on the top of the spring. She's got the box done on the outside. Out of wood grain cardstock, there's a little cross in there. Another creepy big spider, and then she just has Fright. But great for a centerpiece. You could put that next to the cake, next to, I mean, there's so many. You got Zoe's little rosette favors, and there's a lot of ideas for Halloween makes, even if you're decorating or celebrating. But I love that idea of just the open coffin and using the die to do that. Brilliant. Yeah, especially on a frame. This is like a vintage wobbler. This is a vintage action wobbler right there. There you go. All right. We got one more. Yeah, we got one more make. Cool. Check this one out. This is so cool. Zoe Hillman created this one. Take a look at the casket company. I mean, caskets never looked so good. Look at all of these coffins. So this is an etc. tag. Zoe also used etc. trim to kind of make the shelves for this coffin display. Utilize some stamps. So these are actually stamps from Stampers Anonymous. So top and bottom there. But it's really like how she did these. That's just so impressive. Because the coffin box, which I'm going to demo, it takes a little getting used to, but the fact that these are textured and embossed using embossing folders, that takes it to a whole nother challenge level. But I love that Zoe did this. So these are using a lot of different 3D embossing folders and 2D embossing folders, multi-level from Sizzix, and embossing the paper to make all these different coffins. So look at that one. It's so cool. The industrial, or just the planks, or the wood grain. I love the intertwine, that woven, the flourish, or just that other wood. So good, right? Isn't that just cool? And all the different colors. So these are glued to display. So these aren't like open close up, but I guess you could. I mean, you can make a Halloween advent calendar if you wanted to, and just have all these little coffins where you open. But I love the idea of the display, because you could, I mean, the whole idea about this is just seeing what the makers envision, which is like, you know what, I'm going to take that and I want to have these all textured, and it doesn't really matter. Where you would say like, well, I'm not going to do a flourish one, or it's not going to be woven. Why not? It just adds to it. And I love all the different colors of grunge on this. But then you can take that idea and say, yeah, you know what? I want something to open because I'm going to do a little countdown to Halloween, or I want to backlight this because I'm going to hang it on a wall. That's the whole idea, is that you go in with the understanding that the makers make to not only enjoy themselves, but to inspire you to take what they do and do you. That's it. I just think that's so good. Yeah. Countdown to Halloween with little coffin boxes with treats. Sign me up. I love it. Very cool. But yeah, I mean, so many brilliant ideas using the vault. So when you think about this, you know, when we started and we talk about, I got to put this one at the end just so you can appreciate that little coffin, but we talk about 5 dies and really what can you do with just 5 things. Well, you saw that there's so many nuances to each one of these shapes, whether you're using the boxes or the elements here, or the branches for a tree, or spider webs, or all of these little components. Yeah, you can use them together, but using them with each other, it just makes it even more magical. So, so many cool things. All right, we're going to demo the coffin box. Let me get some stuff. Give me just a minute.
Can I help you?
No, I'm ready to rock. Thanks, Mario. Got my mat. Just want to make. I always put it on camera like crooked. How are we doing there? No, up, down.
Yeah, you're good.
I always kind of look on the left side. Pretty good. All right. Okay, let me get some stuff here. There's that. There's that. All right. So we're going to talk about the box itself, and I'm just going to do a quick demo just to show you the build. By no means is this the only way to build it. Maybe you have even a better way, but I just wanted to share the way I do it. So on the packaging, I used wood grain cardstock. Now, wood grain cardstock it's a textured wood grain. You could use an embossing folder, but it's going to make it very textural like Zoe did. So it's really textured. Wood grain cardstock has a texture, but it's also smooth on the back side. So it does make it a little bit easier to assemble and glue. Now, if you do the regular wood grain, you can use your inks, your sprays, do whatever you want to kind of grunge it up. However, if you were lucky enough, I think it was maybe 2 years ago now, we did some seasonal wood grain. It was just 1 year. It was one and done. It did not come back. You can check to see if any retailers have it in stock. We did a gray two-tone. This was great for Christmas, but this, my favorite, this is black two-tone wood grain, and this is the paper. I didn't even ink this for the sample. The paper, you can see it's black and smooth on one side, and it has that two-tone wood grain texture on the other. That is kind of my cardstock of choice, especially for coffin boxes. So I just want to talk about that. If you can't find this, it's not coming back. It won't, but you could always do inking and layering and all that with the white. So check that out. So what I've done is gone in and die cut this. So you can go in and cut out whatever pieces, but you can actually get a lot out of this. So you can take, I like to follow the wood grain. So pretty much I'll get, one here and one here. And then on the lids, you can probably get 4. And then your scraps you can still use for other things. So don't think it's wasteful. But if you don't care about the wood grain, then maybe you can yield more. I don't know. Then we're going to need some supplies. Basic supplies, not a lot. You're going to want some type of glue. I work with Collage Medium because it dries matte. It dries fairly quick. It doesn't leave any shiny residue like glossy accents would. And you need to get in there with your fingers. So hot glue for this one is really not my friend because it's a challenge. All right. Then we've got a creaser. So this is a Teflon or nylon. I'm not sure. I don't know what they call it, but it's not a traditional bone folder. It's like made out of like a non-stick material. This is also very important. It's going to crease, but it's also going to hold some glue. I use a couple of blocks for folding. It doesn't have to be these. You could use a piece of acrylic or anything you have, but these are my grid blocks. I use them a lot for folding. And then in my opinion, the secret sauce are going to be some tiny clips. Now, although these are embellishments for ideology, they're also really important when I do the build. So I have a little dish of them that I keep in my studio, and I use them anytime I'm building little things because these fingers are not little delicate fingers. So clips, these really work well, and I think they're tiny and they hold. So if I'm doing a matchbox or I'm doing any of that, that's really what I use. So that's what we got. All right. So first things first, we need to fold the pieces. So when you die cut, my advice is if you run it through twice, if you're using a cardstock like this, you'll get better deboss lines. I don't use a crease pad. I don't use anything. I just use the 2 cutting pads like normal, but I run it through. Oh, thanks. Teflon bone folder. Thank you. I run it through twice because it just helps with this. But if you're not using this kind of paper, maybe running it through twice, and depending on your machine, might cut these things off. And if that's the case, well, then don't run it through twice. But typically, I just run it through twice. You can use a Vagabond, I use a fold away, the switch, whatever works. But here's how I fold. I've been talking too much. I feel like I'm losing my voice. All right. So what I'm going to do is, you can see the edge of the block. I just visualize it. It sounds weird and all wooey, but it isn't. You're just going to kind of visualize where the line is on the edge of the block. You don't even have to look, and you're just going to push against it. Just having this little bit of stability behind your paper, it helps the paper fold on the actual crease line. And I just push it, okay? Then I'm just going to turn it. I follow the next line, and see, you can't even see it, but you get an idea of where it is, so I push against it. I have a longer line, so a longer line means a longer block, so I'm just going to go right along the edge, and I'm going to push it. And you just keep doing that. I just I turn. It makes it, in my opinion, it makes it just easier to fold your lines at first, okay? So then you have all these lines. Once these lines are folded, then I'm going to go in and crease. So I'm just going to fold it down, take that Teflon, and just give it a nice crease. Open it up, fold, crease, 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 open it up, fold, crease. You get the idea, right? We're opening up, we're folding, we're creasing. That's what I want to do first, just so I can kind of create this edge and this shape. Then I'm going to go in and do the same thing on the tabs. Now, because I'm demoing this, it might seem like a lot, but it isn't a lot. It actually goes really quick. This is something that if I'm doing, I would be doing this to many boxes at a time. I would have many cut, and I would do many like that, okay? Place that, push that against the edge. So now I've got my tabs. And then you got this weird one. These little wings, these are important, but they're kind of weird because the line, you actually want to make sure that this cut piece is angled. We want to fold on the score line, we don't want to fold it parallel to the cut line. Does that make sense? I hope so. You can see that. So I'm just going to push against the edge, slide this over. You can move that out. Again, kind of line that up to the edge and push against. Once you do that, same thing. I'm just going to place that down and crease. Now, like I said, if you have a better system where you're like, oh, I like to do all the folds first and then I do all the creasing, excellent. You do what works for you. This is just what works for me because in my brain, I know that I've folded all the pieces and creased all the pieces. You can do your creasing on either side. It doesn't really matter. As long as you do that, it just makes more of a crispy, crunchy fold. So all of the things are folded and creased. Good. Now we're going to do the same thing to the lid. The lid's a little bit more challenging because, well, it doesn't have as much paper to do that with. It's the same kind of tabs, but everything is a little shorter, and the lid has little triangular pieces. But nonetheless, we do the same thing. So this is where that little block is probably going to come in handy at some point. So I'm just going to take that, again, push against the edge, turn, push against the edge, go to the side. So I'm not even like taking a minute to look because it's so weird to say, but you can actually feel when it's where it needs to be. There you go. All those are already done. I'm just going to take that. I'm going to fold, crease, fold, crease, fold, crease. Simple, simple, simple. All right, fold, crease, there we go, and fold, crease. There we are. So, see, quick, did the same thing. Now we do the little tabs. This is where that little block comes in. Just makes it a little bit easier because they're tiny. So, as long as that little edge is there, just pushing with my finger, pushing against that edge. And if you don't want to, if you're like, look, that block is annoying, don't use it. But I just find that by using the block, it does allow me to find the edge of that paper much easier. Even on this little one, I can go in and just use my finger. See, it just bends where it needs to bend. I don't know why it is, but it is. Okay, those are done. So now I'm just going to pinch all those little folds, fold those down. Yeah, I can just get in my groove and just make coffin boxes. Just go for it. Okay, same thing. This is almost like a little touch. You don't have to do much, but you still want to go in and just go through the motion of creasing. Okay, ready to go. Now we're ready for gluing. Like I said, collage medium. You don't want to use it, use whatever works best for you. I just like it for the reasons that I've explained. But here is how I like to glue the box together. I like to start with the ends. I don't like to start in the middle. The middle to me is the last thing that kind of creates that finishing touch. All right. So here I'm going to just add a little bit. Let me get my collage medium going. I always have a little bit of a piece of wire just to get my collage medium. I don't use a pin, but I always have a piece of skinny wire. Make sure my collage, there we go. Sometimes it needs a little burping. And we're just going to take a little bit of collage medium. I'm going to go just on both tabs. I don't need to soak it. Give it a little thunk and set the cap on when you're not using it. So you can see it's just like a little line of glue. The glue is going to smush out when it hits another piece of paper. So you don't need to juice it up. If you use too much glue, I think your drying time is going to be extended by infinity. It's going to drive you absolutely crazy, I'm sure. So I'm just going to push those so those corners line up and I wipe off the glue while it's wet. I just hold that for a second, just giving it a second to grab, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push this together, wipe this off, push this together, wipe this off. So once I do both, it's very hard to do this through my phone. I stand the box up. I don't know if you guys can see that. I take this and I push it down inside the base just for a second. That's all it takes. Then I'm going to take these little clips and I'm going to clip it on, take the little clip, and you just squeeze them. They're little spring clips, and I clip it on. So you kind of just think of it as like little shop clamps, but tiny for paper. But you still need to kind of push before you clamp. You want to make sure that glue is spread out. So just going to repeat on the other end. Little collage medium, a little collage medium, tap that down, put that on, fold these up, push, wipe. And I just like rub my fingers together just so I can get most of the glue off. But see, every time you squeeze, you're going to get that glue ooze. It's just, it is what it is. But that's why I also like to use matte collage medium, because it's going to dry with a matte finish. Now collage medium, it grabs quick, but you want to give it some time to dry, especially because we're making a dimensional box. It's going to have a lid. So it's going to have things like pushing against each other. But see, clip, clip, move on. So that's what we have so far, the top and the bottom. That's what gives us our stability. That makes these much easier, because if you try to do these first, the box doesn't have any shape at that point, and in my opinion, it makes it really challenging, okay? So next we're going to go in and add little collage medium. So can you see I'm just adding like a blob. Do you see that? A blob. I'm not worrying about going all the way down to the point, because it doesn't matter. The glue is going to spread out. Okay. So this one, I'm going to fold that in, and I do like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a little pinch with like my fingers pushing back, and I use my fingernail to push right in on the edge. Does that make sense? So this way I can try to get that angle, because this is where the coffin takes that point. So see that little pinch? It's weird because it's on this crazy little angle, but that's where you want to hold, do the same thing, kind of wipe off the glue. And if you don't wipe off the glue, at some point you'll have more glue on your fingers than you do the coffin box, and then everything will stick to you. Then I secure it with a little clamp, and I already have glue there. The glue doesn't dry instantly, so I don't want to waste the time. Notice when I did it, I put glue on both tabs that I'm doing. That just makes it easier. But my point is, I don't like hot glue and I don't like tape for this. It just, you can try it. It just, to me, makes it more challenging to do all these things and square up your corners and all that. So once that's done, I'm going to attach that little clip. And I always put the clip like right against that edge. Don't put it over that corner. We want to put it where it's going to secure the tab. All right, so there's our little clips. There's the base. Done. Moving on. Now we do the same thing with the lid. This is kind of fussy. It is what it is. It's not terrible, but it's certainly not. That's why I always start with the base. It builds confidence. When you do the little base, you're like, ooh, okay, I got this. Don't start with the lid if you haven't built one yet, because this lid, there's like, where am I gluing? All right, I'm adding it to this like tiny little triangle. Notice it's not nearly as big of a tab as the base, but a dot is going to be fine. Okay, so this, I'm just going to fold that down. Because it's small, it does allow you to kind of pinch it with just 2 fingers. If you don't want to use your fingers, or maybe your fingers, you know, are bigger, or maybe just you can't grab because it hurts your fingers, you know, utilize things around you. So sometimes you can place it down. There again, you can use that Teflon folder because the glue will wipe off of this really easy, and you can just press that down. Again, all we're trying to do is just make contact at first, and then we can add our clips. So, oops, I just grabbed it. Sometimes, let me just tell you real quick, sometimes if you go to add your clip, because again I'm trying to use my phone, and you don't put the clip on the outside and you like put it perfect to where it divides those pieces again, don't worry, just go in and quickly, this is perfect size for 2 clips to go side by side. So you need, I still use 2 clips, I don't use 1. Okay, now we're going to do the same to the top here. All right, So far, so good. Now, some people, they can't even be bothered building. And to me, that's fun. That's like doing the tiny houses, the paper. I just think it's really, really fun. It's good. Okay. Good, good, good. Perfect. Okay. All right. Beautiful. Again, you're just using that collage medium. It's just glue and press and repeat. That's all. You can use that Teflon folder just to kind of push out some of the glue. I'll admit, when I build this, I would say that my face is probably 6 inches from this box. So doing this, trying to hold it under the phone, if I go out of frame, it's because I can't see. I'm doing my best. Okay. There we go. More clips. Okay, now you have these little things that you're like, are you kidding me? Yeah, you are. They actually do something. So, okay, I'm just going to add a little touch of glue. See, right there, a little touch of glue. It's still something, and same rules apply. We'll take this, we're going to hold those two corners, and you just go in right there and you do the pinch. Again, your nail is what's pushing that little tab. It doesn't feel like much, but it really makes a difference. Okay. Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat when they talk about freezing. If you're ever watching a live, whoops, and something freezes, I just threw my glue. Yeah, refreshing is the key. Yeah, because when I see a million comments, I will say I can't help but get distracted. But yeah, if that happens, it's usually because you just need to refresh, or because I've talked too long. It could go either way.
Yep.
It could go either way. All right. Again, you're just going to press and hold. And how long? You just press and hold for a little bit. That's good. All right. And just enough that we can get the tiny clip on there. Come on. Last one. Home stretch. There we go. Okay. So, clips and clips. Same and same. So, how long does that take to dry? Well, I would say, you could let it dry for 5 minutes. That's fine. But the longer you wait, especially depending on where you live in Arizona, it dries pretty quick. But the longer you let it dry, the more secure it's going to be. So while this is drying, I'm just going to talk about options for the die, just so you understand how this works. Okay. So here we've got the base and the lid. So if you were just going to do this for cards, you could just use this one, cut it out, and then just cut off those little tabs to put it on the card front. Or you can fold those tabs under and it would give it a little dimension on the card front. So like Barbara's card, you can use just one of those dies, just so you have an idea. But this die is also designed to utilize those other shapes. We talked about, let me just dump out the bag. We talked about that little cross, talked about the little bat. We also talked about the skull. These are dies that come with this. You saw the makers use it as an embellishment, and you absolutely can. Or when you're cutting this out and you're placing this down onto your paper, you can take one of these dies and you can place it down as well. All three of these dies are sized to fit inside here, and you can tape it down with a little washi tape or whatever tape that you want to do when it comes to adjusting. Place that down. Anything that you can adjust with your tape. Don't use anything permanent. It could be washi, but anything that is used for adjusting dies and kind of sticking that down, run it through. And then what you have is you have lids with die cut windows. And that was really the concept for these. Yes, it can be a great embellishment, but it's also really cool as a see-through, because you can either put a piece of acetate like I did there. So then it allowed me to kind of stick down the little eyes, or you can leave it open. Like if you're going to fill it with candy, you can go ahead and put some transparency in there and you can use it that way. But the benefit of this is that, of course, the lids, you can just have something shiny on there, or you can just use that lid because maybe you want to see something inside. Maybe it's paper, maybe you're going to put a little light in there. I'm not sure, but you can use these as embellishments on top, or place it down. And I would suggest taping it before you run it through and cut it out, because then you can have your little cutout. Or you can make that like a little inlay. You can do a different color in there, which I think is also good. So that's really the importance of understanding what you can do when you're actually die cutting to either inlay these pieces and create these windows. So let's just go back to our box. Our box should be ready to go. We're just going to remove these little clips. And if you don't think that the box is done, well, don't remove the clips. If you take it off and it starts to, I think this is early. This hasn't been 5 minutes, but in the sake of the demo, you'll get the idea. And then you have your built little coffin box.
Man.
That's it. Cute. Simple. Really, really fun. A great way to use the coffin box die. So as I'm doing this, I see Mario off to the side, and there's a little note for me. And so between that and the sound, I'm like,
Totally my fault.
there's like a million things going on, but I did there we go. I did the demo. You guys see that. You can go back and rewatch that. Okay. So this
Bonus
says,
make.
oh, I see. It's a bonus make. Mario's like, my bad. So it looks like,
Totally my fault.
Oh,
thought
I got
this
it.
Was Christmas.
no worries.
Sorry,
All right.
Anita.
So here we go. It looks like Anita. Yeah, I can see why you see that. There we go. So Anita did even more jewelry makes. These look fall. So let's take these out. Oh, look at that. Oh, really? I'm glad. Let's take these out. So these are more jewelry pieces that Anita did. Wow. Oh, wow. I can see. The red and green probably threw you off, Mario. That's okay. No worries. No worries. All right. It's all good. So more jewelry that Anita did. So it's like a bonus thing. See, if you watch to the end, then you actually get all of the things. So these are more resin jewelry pieces that Anita created with dies. So there are the pumpkins with the leaves. Wow. For fall. See, but I love the Halloween, but hey, great with the fall too. Look at that. So these are the florals from the wreath. That's great. And look at these. Look at these fall brooches. That's all from that wreath. Look at the little acorns. I love that. It's like a little heart stone that went into the acorn. These are absolutely amazing, Anita. Again, die cut and done with resin. I love the metallics, but really, it's all the little details of the stone. And those bows are just, man, they're perfect. Look at that little leaf cluster. So, wow, I mean, my gosh, just the Halloween ones were already intense. So it's Halloween and fall. Anita. Amazing.